everybody, this is Alnaj from the Unapologetic Woman Empowerment Dynasty, and you're listening to the Unapologetic Woman podcast, the show for women who choose to live their legacies unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. If this is a space you're curious about, visit unapologetic-women.com. Today, we're talking about our prerogative to change our minds with my good friend Krystal Hille. Krystal is the transformation and visibility visionary and founder of Hill House Publishing. She is a 9-time international #1 best-selling publisher, author, and speaker. Through her author archetype system, she helps purpose-led entrepreneurs to harness the power of words to unleash their story that is bursting to be birthed so that they can create a bigger impact, command media attention, and connect with more soul-aligned clients. Originally from Germany, Krystal currently lives in the country Victoria, Australia, with her 2 children. Thanks for joining us. This is Krystal. Thanks for saying yes. Thanks for coming on. It's been a while since we've had a conversation, and life has been wild. So I have no idea where this will go, but let's go there. So, my friend, what does it mean to you to be an unapologetic woman? Let's just start there.
What does that mean? It really means, I was reflecting on that earlier. What does it even mean to be unapologetic? And I think it's about without apologizing for changing our minds, just going for what is in alignment with our truth. You know, that we have the right to change our mind. We have the right to follow our inner guidance. And when something new pops up, we make a decision based on the new information that comes in, rather than having to stick to old agreements, because that's the old way. That's the people pleaser way. And so that to me feels like being unapologetically ourselves.
Wow. Giving ourselves permission to change our mind as we get new information. And because life is ever changing and we are ever changing, we are ever evolving. And I've never thought of it before that we get to then change our minds unapologetically, thereby keeping up with the evolution. That is powerful.
Yes. Because otherwise we're in this body of now living a life of yesterday. And then that creates a mismatch. And then we wonder why we're so tired and why things don't flow.
And it's tough. It's tough to grant ourselves permission. For me, I'll speak for myself. So I find that it's been tough for me to grant permission because I've always been somebody who's constantly evolving and constantly changing, and very consciously so, very intentionally so. And then having this pushback from life, especially from a business point of view, you know, where we get that droned into us that we have to almost... People have to be able to recognize us and trust us. And there has to be that factor where they know what they can expect. And as a woman, I have always found that really challenging, because it feels to me as though I'm expected to show up in a certain way when my experience of myself is so diverse. Like, I'm super confident one day and I'm a blubbering, floundering imbecile the next day. And I feel sexy as fuck the one day. And literally the next day, I feel like I'm a whale and unattractive. And it's almost as though we are not given permission to kind of go, well, this is where I'm at today. Don't compare me with where I was tomorrow. And I don't want to compare myself to where I'm going to be tomorrow, because quite frankly, it could be better or worse. And I get to be okay with both of those. What's your experience been of that, though?
I agree. And I think so often, the roller coaster of emotions, you know, that's sort of my my thing, where one day I wake up with anxiety and the next day I wake up with gratitude for no reason, absolutely no reason, other than it just is. And so that to me is then, okay, who am I with, being okay with feeling overwhelmed or having anxiety, and then talking to that part of me that has that, because that's really it. What I'm really observing is, as I'm stepping out of the emotions and just really becoming more of the observer of that, it's like, wow, I'm feeling overwhelmed inside of myself. Isn't that interesting? I wonder what's been going on. And then likewise, yesterday I woke up with this incredible gratitude. I'm like, wow, I'm feeling grateful inside. Isn't that interesting? How cool does that feel? And then actually realizing, well, if I'm waking up one day like this and the next day completely different, but the external world hasn't changed, so what story am I even attaching to? Right? That's been my kind of reflections lately. And then really I do have the freedom to, yes, acknowledge the anxiety and be with that and feel that and love it, and then it will go, and then I can shift focus into something else, because I don't have to stay there, because that is not me. It's just an aspect. And so yeah, it's that roller coaster of emotions. And I think that's, any woman can relate to that, and especially any business owner, any entrepreneur. One minute we get good news and then we're high, and the next minute we get bad news, or something doesn't work out, or we're beating ourselves up for not having done the thing that we wanted to do, and then we go into overwhelm. But who chooses? If we can, like, I think we can start to choose as we recognize that this is just, as we learn to accept it, we can then actually move through this faster.
Yeah. And having compassion for ourselves and a really good sense of humor about this whole life experience, I have found, has been my saving grace, right? So having compassion with myself and go, oh, oh, Elle, you're being really shitty today. Like, oh, look at you. You are being such a little bitch today. And I get to laugh at it, because the moment that I start becoming aware of what it is that I'm going through emotionally at the moment, and I bring my compassion to that, of course, I get to have this because I'm just having a human experience, and then go, wow, that's really funny that I'm choosing to think the thoughts, and then giving myself permission. How much longer do you want to think these thoughts, Al? You already know what's happening. You can feel what's happening. And I have to say, I've always been an extraordinarily resilient and stubborn woman. And I'm amazed at myself sometimes at for how long I am willing to be shitty. like, even when I catch myself thinking the thoughts, I'm like, yeah, wow, I'm just going to keep on thinking these thoughts, even though I know what I'm doing. And being okay with that as well, unapologetically. I think sometimes if people had to get into my head, the whole world would run away from me, because they'd all think, oh my God, this woman is batshit crazy. We have to get her off the face of the planet. Is it just me, or do you have those voices as well? Can we go to the voices in our heads?
Totally, I have those voices as well. And yeah, my voices are very critical of who I am, and my voices are, they say, oh my God, I haven't done this and I haven't done that, and I didn't get this done and I haven't done that, and oh my God, I should be further ahead. Like, those are my unresourceful, shitty voices.
Yeah.
That keep me in a state of running and trying to achieve. But lately I've actually just looked at them and said, well, there's another. Why don't I just choose to focus on what I'm celebrating? Why don't I just flip the whole thing around? And so I've created a practice for myself where every day, every evening, I'm looking for, okay, 3 things that I can celebrate, that happened today, that I can celebrate. And it's interesting what's happening, because now I wake up and thinking, great, what am I going to create today that I can celebrate tonight? And the whole energy shifts.
I
It's
love
really
that.
awesome.
I love that. What can I create today that I can celebrate tonight?
Yeah. It actually makes me more productive. I still do the same things, but I'm doing them from a different energy. I'm not doing them from, I actually noticed it's the victim that comes in when I feel like I have to. And it's like, no, I'm going to do this now, and then I can celebrate it later. It's so different.
Yeah, I have to say, life graced me a few years ago because I used to be uber critical on myself, and I was the epitome of the overachieving woman. That I had to schedule in time to pee, otherwise I would get to 6 o'clock at night and go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I don't have a very strong bladder. I mean, yes, I gave childbirth, and so when we sneeze, and when we laugh too loud. Um, but I think a huge part of it was the extraordinary pressure that I put my bladder under because I would never go to the toilet because there just wasn't any time. And then I got to a stage of life where I thought I was like, yeah, I'm on the top of the world, baby, and going like a Ferrari, and I lost everything. Like my entire world came crashing down, and everything that I had ever built, everything that I was terrified of losing, I lost. Like, just like this. And I had no choice but to surrender. No, that's not true. I had a choice. I chose to surrender. I chose to let go of everything that I had attached to as my identity up to that point. I chose to release my ego need, desire of how I was being perceived by other people. Because I was like, I am where I am, and that has to be good enough because I'm still alive. And from then, I stopped being the uber critical woman that got into overwhelm, because I think that I just reached a point where I was like, well, I can stress or I can just go, I can only do what I can do today with what I have available today. And that was such a gift and one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through in my life.
That's the thing, right? For so many of us, it takes this radical intervention from the universe before we actually learn to surrender. And I think, yeah, for me, it's been similar. When life is so much that you can't possibly figure out all the moving pieces with your human brain, because you're not, out there looking in, but you're in it, trying to figure out the mess. And there comes a point I just can't. There is no way I can physically, logically figure this out because there are too many moving pieces. So I'm just surrendering it all up. Yeah.
How many of those universal interventions have you had? By the way, I've had more than
Oh my
one.
God. I think I'm still in one. Yeah. There's been one that's been kind of drawing for the last 2.5 years, and there's sort of cycles within cycles. To really, it's like, have you really learned it? Are you really surrendering? Okay, well, I'll just give you this one. Are you really learned it? I'm going to need another one. Yeah.
One of my big lessons at the moment is learning how to trust other women and learning how to be with other women and to become interdependent instead of independent. And you've been one of those women that I've been so blessed with in my life in the last couple of years to help restore that trust, which is, I think, taken for granted a lot of the times by women who naturally trust other women. And something that I find majority of high achieving women struggle with. There's a reason we call it the lone wolves. There's a reason why we have gone so far on our own. Which one has been your experience? Does trusting other women come easy to you, or is that something that you work on as well?
I've had a lot of betrayal from women in this life. And, you know, I do believe in past lives. And I think a lot of things go back to witch hunts, where literally often women were forced to betray each other because it was a question of life or death.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us still have an imprint inside in our DNA that says you can't trust the other women, because if you get too close and you share your true self with them, you share your witch self with them, you share your healer self with them, if they get into trouble and they get tortured, they're going to give your name away, and then you're going to die as well. So it's not safe to trust anyone. And I feel that's been playing itself out in my life. Just a lot of betrayal, like starting in high school, my best girlfriend just suddenly going with the other side, or just dropping me, or even in primary school, there was a moment that my best friend, I got bullied, and my best girlfriend, one day she was with the bullies and they hid my shoes, and I was so hurt. So I think there has been potentially a guarding, but in recent years, I've always had that one woman, that one girlfriend that I trust 100% until there's a betrayal.
Yeah.
So that's been the pattern in my life. But I have always trusted because I needed to, for my own sanity, like for my, you know, as women, we need to share, and I needed to, you know, we need to work through things, and we do that in conversation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's almost by necessity that I trusted.
It's interesting because, the poor listeners will tell you by now, all they hear about is me talking about the book Fast Like a Girl. It's been really impactful for me. And one of the things that she talks about there is that, especially as women, community influences our physical health. In that, when we become isolated, when we are the loners, it is as detrimental to our physical health as smoking and drinking extensively, which is wow for me, and still really interesting. And I feel like it's one of the reasons I started the soiree and then the sanctuary for women as well. And I love seeing how women really shy away from it, because it's a space without the hats. It's a space where I want all of you. I don't want the professional you. And I think as high achieving women, it feels so much safer for us to have that professional hat on all the time. I, for one, was way more confident as a professional than as a woman, or as a mother, or as a lover. And then every now and again, we let our guard down and we do make that one friend. And like you, betrayal has been my pattern. Every single time I choose to trust, and then I get betrayed, and then I get burnt. Not at the stake, but I got burnt in business. I got burnt in relationships. I got burnt in all of the things. And yet it's really interesting for me how, and I'll go, and I'm going to crack this code. Like, I am going to break this cycle for myself and for anybody else who's interested in, because I think it's the missing link for women at the moment. I think that even the women who say they trust, when I meet them, they trust professionally or not, only to a certain point. They'll trust in terms of, yeah, let's do a project together, or let's do, but to really take off all the masks and trust. And I'm not just talking about one or two friends. Like, I want to build a community of trust, because I think it can be easier to do that one-on-one, but to actually start a community of full trust, you know, for me, that's the next evolution. So as a woman, where do you feel we can start changing the narrative, or how can women like us start changing the narrative? Because we both know that we are creating the cycles, right? It's an energetic creation that I'm ready to break. What is some of the narrative that you think that we can start changing to break that energetic cycle?
So the first word that came in was radical self-trust. No, radical self-responsibility. And yes, radical self-trust. And I think the betrayals come in these times because on some level there is lack of self-trust, there's still ego, there is low self-worth, there's all these stories that we've inherited that are still running that then cause us to take sides or to take offense or to feel misunderstood, to let it fester, to not take responsibility for communicating clearly. So all of these things can create misunderstandings. And unless we actually name them when they happen, for the other person then to say, oh my God, that's not how I meant it at all. You misunderstood, and that's your wounded child that's reacting here. But so it's really becoming aware of, where are we still being triggered by something that somebody else says, taking radical self-responsibility for that and putting it into the space rather than holding it in.
Yes, having the conversations about it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was having a conversation with my partner about passive aggressive behavior on the weekend. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, are you kidding me? Like, it is so ripe, the being nice, but you're not actually meaning nice, or just moving away, not being willing to have that conversation, just waiting for it to go away so that you can stop being uncomfortable. It seems to be a pandemic at the moment, and I can't help but wonder if the whole political correctness movement is accelerating that in some way or form, that people are even more afraid to say how they really think and how they really feel, because, oh, heaven forbid, I should say the politically incorrect thing and somebody's feelings get hurt in the process. When I'm thinking, but hey, hold on. Don't we all have the right to our own opinions, our own beliefs, our own desires, our own value systems? Why is it that certain new ones have to be made right and all the old ones have to be made wrong, when, quite frankly, some of us are old and we get to live out our lives in whatever that is? What happened to us actually being like-hearted and not like-minded, but appreciating diversity of thought, beliefs, experiences in this human life? Like, is that not actually creating even more fear for people to have the conversation and go, oh, Krystal, I love you, but quite frankly, I don't agree with you. And we can agree to disagree and still love each other, and leave the conversation still disagreeing and being okay with that.
Yeah. And not every one person has to be 100% matched with your values, your interests, etc. That's why we have the diversity, and we go to different people for different things, right?
Yes. And how different would the conversations be of, oh, that's really hurts my feelings and this is why, and the other person could go, but this is actually what I meant, and we can have that conversation, clear the space, still stay connected, and at the end of the day, start rebuilding trust. I do think, yes, I agree with you, radical self-responsibility and radical self-trust. But at some stage, that self has to translate to and with others, and with
Yeah.
others. Because if we keep on just doing the self piece, and I'm all about the self, right? It's why I do self-leadership. But understanding that independence has got to evolve to interdependence, because we are social creatures creating a social experience for all of us. And I'm just seeing more and more people becoming more and more isolated instead. And I think that's madness.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it has to be brought back into community. And imagine the community that we can create when we all speak our truth from a respectful place, not attacking, but with self-responsibility, saying, when you shared this, it made me feel you know, that you micromanaged me, for example. And I realized that that is because I've always been told what to do as a child, and it's nothing to do with you. But I just wanted to put it in the space so that you're aware of where I'm at, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah. And like you so rightly say, and this is why. So it's doing the introspection first. It's not just about continuously throwing, oh, when you say this, I feel this. No.
Because
Why
that's
am I
blame, right?
feeling this? Yes. Yes. And by the way, that was one of the ways that I was trained in when I went through a lot of coach training, was to have the conversations. When you say this, it makes me feel like this. And then allowing that to be the conversation. And I always felt, well, it's incomplete.
Yeah.
It's incomplete. And at the end of the day, we just end up all being little children who are emotionally immature and not taking responsibility for our emotions, and then just throwing it back to the other person all the time to say basically what we're saying to the other people is, for me to be happy, you have to behave like this and say like this in order for me to then feel good in your space, instead of being really grateful to the other person for triggering us and going, all right, what's the story I'm telling myself right now that has got me triggered? And sorting that shit out, and then acknowledging, hey, I'm working on this. But just so you know, when you do this, when you say this, man, this is what's happening for me. And again, bringing that sense of humor in terms of, yep, I'm just being human, not dead yet, not done yet, not perfect, like perfectly imperfect. And allowing that to form the basis of a new level of relationships and relating to each other.
Exactly. Exactly. And I totally agree. It gives permission to stay small. When you say, when you do this, I feel that. That's the starting point, right? And then it's, and now what? How can we explore this? You know, that's the facts. And how can we move beyond that now? That's the real conversation.
Yeah. Why do you think more people aren't having the real conversations, though? Or like, are we seriously so stuck in that consciousness of, meh? Are we really?
The reaction, the reaction consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just so multi-layered what's going on. We want to have the conversation, but then we don't want to offend the other person. And then we feel bad about ourselves, and then we still have pleaser issues, you know, people-pleasing tendencies. And then we think, oh no, it's not that bad. I'll get over it. And then it just becomes a bigger mountain. I think there's so many layers, and then the other person brings their layers to it. But in your space, or in the space that we're playing it, it's like, okay, can I be perfectly honest? This is how I feel. This is why, you know, this is what I'm working on. Just wanted you to know so you can support me in working through it, or, you know, you can just be aware of it and hold space for it.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Okay. So before everybody thinks I'm always all doom and gloom, let me ask you this question. What are you super freaking excited about at the moment in life and consciousness and humanity, and what you are observing and what you've come to understand?
Progress, evolution. I'm excited that things are moving forward. You know, I think there's, in my own business, there is expansion happening. It's exciting. I'm reaching more people that are coming into my community to publish their books. So we're making bigger impact. Everybody's making bigger impact because their messages are getting out there. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited. You know, I'm working now with a COO, and we just, you know, sometimes when we're ready for something, the universe just brings us what we need.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't even looking for her. I just put out a call and was like, I'm too busy, I don't like what I'm doing, somebody else do that. You know, and it came within 2 weeks. She was there. It was that easy. So I'm celebrating when there's clarity of intention without needing to know the how. It just happens. the
Yes,
progress of that.
without needing to know the how. I feel like society is still very much caught up in the how, which we both know is the masculine modality. And so there's obviously space for it. But what I'm finding really interesting and what I'm really excited about at the moment is how more and more women are releasing the masculine, they're overtly masculine. And for the most part, it's either the young women who just seem to do it so naturally because they probably looked at us oldies and went, "Oh hell no, I'm not going to end up like her. I just want to have fun." You know, Cindy Lauper, girls just want to have fun. Yeah, we all forgot that. We all need to go listen to that song again. So it's that, and then majority of us who are a little bit more mature in this life experience seem to all be reaching a space of going, "Oh my God, like enough already. Like I want to start having fun in my life. I want to start receiving instead of achieving. I want to start dreaming more. I want to start looking after myself more. I want more nurturance. I want more pleasure. I want more." And giving ourselves permission to become greedy. Like Darren always calls me greedy. I'm like, yeah, I want more and more and more and more. But he says it in a really beautiful way. There's enjoyment in his observation of my greed for pleasure and enjoyment and food and all of these things, the sensory life experience that we get to have. And I'm so excited that we as society are awakening to what we really need to know about masculine and feminine and what it really means, and how we get to really embrace being a woman at this time, and no longer, and I say this with respect, being a scullery maid when we are a woman, but allowing ourselves to be sacred artists of life.
Yeah, I like that. Sacred artists of life. And I have noticed that too. I've noticed that a lot of women are leaving corporate at the moment. A lot of women are doing, training as a healer or something that really gives them purpose. And they're looking, a lot of women doing the jump from corporate into their own businesses, doing their own thing, or even somebody, even in marketing. I know a lady, she no longer wants to work for corporate, but she wants to still do marketing, but she wants to do it for the heart-centered people, for the small business owners who are here to make a difference and not just here to make profit.
Yes. And I want to be very intentional about this as well. I am not anti-corporate. And I say this over and over again. I am not anti-corporate. I don't believe everybody will find freedom in entrepreneurship or joy in entrepreneurship. I do see that there's three legs now. There is corporate, self-employed, and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is becoming smaller and smaller because there's more producers, which are self-employed, than creatives, which are true entrepreneurs. And it's beautiful how even that has evolved in industry, right? But I do feel that a lot of women especially have purpose in corporate, and that their purpose is the transformation of corporate from what it has been to what it needs to become. And what I feel it needs to become is a heart-centered way of creating business, of creating industry. I don't think everybody leaving corporate is the answer. Then who transforms corporate? I feel like it's very powerful people that need to remain in corporate to bring forth that transformation. So I wanted to put that in because, and I hear this a lot, and I've spoken about this a lot, Krystal, is there's a big bashing of corporate going on from the entrepreneurial space at the moment. And I'm seeing a lot of people being shamed for being in corporate. I'm also seeing a lot of entrepreneurs, no, self-employed people finding that the business isn't working and then having shame in finding a job again. And I want to stop that. I want people to know it's okay if the business is not working to go and have a job. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. You still have purpose. So I just want to bring that into the conversation, because I'm hearing, and it's not being done maliciously, but there's so much corporate bashing and there's so much shaming in people, and leaving corporate is not the answer for everybody. It really isn't, for various reasons. And so if there is somebody who's listening at the moment and you were in corporate and things aren't working out in business, and I know that everybody only projects the wonderful pieces of entrepreneurship, but as somebody who's been an entrepreneur for 30 years, man, you have to take the bad with the good. Like, you have to take the downs with the ups. And sometimes it feels like more downs than ups. You need freaking hair on your teeth most of the time, right? And so if things are not working out, go freaking find a job. There's no shame in it. There's no shame in it. Like, I just feel like we need to start changing that conversation for people.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's totally true, because corporate is transforming, and there's a lot of awareness since COVID that's coming in to really create powerful and good experiences for employees, with the mental health and all these different programs that they're doing. And there's a real focus and a real shift that goes how to become more employee centered. That's what I've been hearing. I mean, I actually, to be honest, have never worked in corporate. So I've been one of those people who I've been a creative. I've worked in theater. I've been a theater director, and then I became a life coach. So I've actually never, other than temping, when in between theater jobs in my 20s, I used to work in offices as a temp. And that's my experience of corporate. So, and I think in society we do need it, because imagine if we didn't have it, you just can't imagine a society without it at the moment.
Yeah. So if anybody is listening and they're in corporate, and you know that you are here to transform corporate and you want to write a book about it, then Krystal is your lady to publish your book. Just going to put that in as well.
Yes. Yeah, I'm all about supporting women and men who are here to make a difference, who are here to make the world a better place, who are riding this wave of transformation and raising the consciousness on the planet, whatever that looks like in everybody's life.
Why did you shift from a life coach to a publisher?
Life happens is the short answer. I've always been guided by sort of what shows up. And I think I was a transformational life coach. Then I focused on running events, personal development events. And that became my main source of income. And COVID shut that down. So then it was like, okay, so do I go back to life coaching? Do I go back to really helping thought leaders to embrace who they are and courageously share their message in the world, by helping them with their confidence and clearing out all the witch hunting DNA that we still have in us, because that's sort of who comes to me. Or do I pivot? And going through a divorce at that exact time, when that happened, there weren't clients coming forward, but there was an opportunity to become a publisher. And so that had the bigger energy. I tuned into it. It's like, yeah, that's where I need to go, because I wasn't able to hold space for anybody other than myself and my children. And even that was a challenge. So why would I even think I could hold space for others? But with publishing, what happened is, after I was trained, I was surrounding myself with people who are like me, wanting to make a difference. So that raised the vibration, and I was surrounding myself in my work with high vibing people who are here to make a difference. And that really, I think, to be honest, that really helped me through all the craziness of the divorce.
I think we still underestimate the impact and influence of our peers, who we surround ourselves with, really have on us. And I love how you chose to surround yourself with your peers instead of, and I see this happen so often. I don't understand when the coaching industry became the guru industry. because coaching was always meeting as equals in every single meeting. It was never this one is a step ahead of the other. No, it was sacred space for the meeting of equals. And it is in that I find we are most powerful, because the moment we start surrounding ourselves with people who we think we need to help, we've already lost the battle. Because just in that, we are already lowering our consciousness. We're already lowering our energy, because otherwise we can't meet those people. And so what a delight. And thank you for choosing to pivot, and thank you for choosing you and to take that stance of no, no, no. This gets to move forward, not backwards. Which probably would have felt easier for you to do than to go into a whole new direction. What is happening in the world of publishing at the moment?
What's happening in my world of publishing, or in the
Mhm.
world of publishing? My
Both.
world. So last week, we brought out a book called Get Published. Industry experts share their secret. This wasn't my book. This wasn't through Hill House Publishing. It was one that I contributed to. That was a lot of fun. A lot of collaborations came out of that. And if anybody listening is looking for a comprehensive, all-rounded idea of what needs to happen in publishing, or what you need to do in order to get published, I really reckon that book is a great book to get started, because it's also got editors in it, ghostwriters, book cover designers, all the people, and everyone in that book is so heart-centered and so service-driven in a way that, yeah, it's beautiful. So it's about impact, not profit, although, you know, the profit comes from there when we make the impact, but it's not the driving force. Then I've got three books in production, actually, that are being created. One is called Healing Your Wounds of the Past, Healing the Wounds of the Past. One is called Beyond Certainty, Finding Courage to Embrace the Unknown. And a third one is in collaboration with a lady called Wendy Corner, who's a TEDx speaker, and that's called Making a Difference. So you can see all of the, you know, they're all in this area of how do we heal, how do we move forward, how do we really live in this world that is so uncertain, and really put our best foot forward. And then, of course, I've got two that are opening up for people to join in, two multi-author books. One is called Beyond Conditioning, Living Life on Your Terms. And that's in collaboration with a lady who does card decks. So we're creating a card deck and a multi-author book together, which is lots of fun. We're really excited about that. And the next one is a book called Beyond Endings. It's about really releasing the shame around endings and celebrating the rites of passage to open up to new beginnings. Because so often in our society, we always look for what's next, but we're not actually allowing ourselves sometimes that time in the chrysalis or in the cocoon to just be in that inner winter and see, okay, that has been, let me celebrate and acknowledge that before we move forward into something new. We need to wait and pause. And I feel like society often pressures us to say, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So I don't know yet. Yeah. I'm in my inner chrysalis. I'm just being and waiting until the next thing arises.
Yeah. I love how many women are going through that at the moment, by the way, that I meet. They're all kind of sitting in the unknowing and being comfortably uncomfortable with not knowing what's next, and allowing for the healing, the nurturance, and then to see what comes to them. Beautiful. What do you take an unapologetic stance for in the world?
I think it goes back to what I said in the very beginning of our conversation, to being unapologetically ourselves, to being unapologetically speaking our truth. And that means to unapologetically give ourselves permission to change our mind.
Beautiful. Krystal, thank you so much. This has been a sensational conversation, of course. And I'm going to put all your contact details in the description, so whoever wants to connect with you can do so easily and effortlessly. Thank you for being so gracious, my friend. Thank you for being so transparent, so open, so wise, and just willing to share all the goodness that comes through you. So appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for your amazing questions.
Yeah, you're welcome. For all our listeners, wow, I hope that you have found this episode as rich as I have. In fact, I'm going to go listen to this a couple of times because I think that there were a lot of things that we discussed today that invites introspection of how things are showing up. What are the patterns that are showing up? What are the patterns that are ready to be released? And what are the beliefs that need to be changed in order for those patterns to be broken? And what are the new patterns that I want to form in my life? So, as always, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a sensational week ahead. And never forget, we get to live our legacies unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. Have an amazing day further. Cheers. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at The Unapologetic Woman and on LinkedIn at L-Naj. And if you're interested in experiencing the Unapologetic Woman Friendwork Soiree, book in for our next open meeting at unapologetic-women.as.me/unapologetic. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.